My husband let his brother propose at our wedding, after I said no, and is now asking for forgiveness. What should I do? I stood in front of the mirror, adjusting the delicate lace veil that cascaded down my back. The sun streamed through the window, casting a golden glow over the room. My heart fluttered with excitement and nerves. Today was the day I would marry Liam, my sweet, kind-hearted Liam. The man who had shown me nothing but love and support since the day we met. The ceremony was held in a quaint chapel, adorned with white roses and twinkling fairy lights. As I walked down the aisle, my heart swelled with joy. The look in Liam's eyes as he watched me approach made me feel like the luckiest woman in the world. The vows we exchanged were heartfelt and genuine, filled with promises of love and commitment. It was a perfect ceremony, the kind of day I had always dreamed of. After the ceremony, we moved to the reception venue, a beautiful garden with lush greenery and colorful blooms. The scent of roses and jasmine filled the air, mingling with the sound of laughter and music. Our families and friends gathered to celebrate our union, and the atmosphere was filled with joy and love. It was everything I had hoped for and more. Liam and I made our rounds, greeting guests and thanking them for sharing this special day with us. Liam's older brother, Ben, was there too, of course. He was Liam's best man, and while I appreciated his presence, I couldn't shake the uneasy feeling I always had around him. Ben was difficult. He tried too hard to be funny, often making jokes that fell flat or were outright inappropriate. He craved attention, always wanting to be the center of it. He reminded me of Screech from Saved by the Bell, but 10 times more annoying. Despite my reservations about Ben, I had always tried to be polite and cordial. I knew he had a difficult childhood. When Liam was diagnosed with high-functioning autism, their parents lavished attention on him, leaving Ben feeling neglected. As a result, Ben acted out during their teenage years, getting into trouble and demanding their parents' attention. This dynamic persisted into adulthood, with their parents often siding with Ben, even when he was in the wrong. Liam, ever the people pleaser, never spoke up for himself. He just wanted to keep the peace. 4 weeks before the wedding, we were having dinner with Liam's parents and Ben. It was a pleasant evening, filled with laughter and discussions about our future plans. Ben seemed unusually excited, and it wasn't long before he revealed why. "I've been thinking about proposing to Melody," he announced, a wide grin on his face. "Oh, that's wonderful," Liam's mother exclaimed. "How do you plan to do it?" Ben turned to Liam with a mischievous glint in his eye. "I was hoping to do it at the reception." I laughed nervously, thinking he was joking. "You do that, and my brothers will throw you out of the venue." But Ben didn't laugh. He looked offended, and that's when I realized he was serious. Before I could say anything, Liam, ever the accommodating brother, said, "Of course you can. Melody will love it." I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. I touched Liam's arm gently and said, "We'll talk about it later." He looked confused but nodded. After dinner, I pulled Liam aside. "Liam, we need to talk about Ben's proposal." "What about it?" he asked, still puzzled. "It's in bad taste, Liam. A wedding day is supposed to be about the bride and groom. Having someone else propose takes away from that. It's not fair to us or to our guests." Liam's face fell. "I didn't think of it that way. I just wanted to make Ben happy." "I know," I said softly. "But this is our day. How about we help Ben plan a special party for his proposal instead? It would be more memorable and appropriate." Liam's eyes lit up. "That's a great idea. I'll talk to Ben." Relieved, I thought the matter was settled. Liam spoke to Ben and explained our plan. Ben seemed to agree, and I felt a sense of calm returning. The days leading up to the wedding were a whirlwind of final preparations and excitement. Yet I couldn't shake the lingering worry about Ben's proposal. I trusted Liam, but I knew how easily influenced he could be, especially when it came to his family. Liam's struggle was evident. He wanted to make everyone happy, a trait that I loved and sometimes found frustrating. He adored his brother and wanted to support him, but he also knew how important our wedding day was to me. It was a delicate balance, and I could see the stress wearing on him. One evening, as we sat together planning the final details, Liam sighed heavily. "I'm just worried about Ben. He's been acting strange since we talked about the proposal." I looked at him, concern etched on my face. "What do you mean?" "He's been distant and moody. I think he's upset that we're not letting him propose at the wedding." "Liam, this is our day," I reminded him gently. "We've already offered to help him plan something special. He needs to respect that." Liam nodded, but I could see the worry in his eyes. He was caught between his love for me and his loyalty to his brother, and it was tearing him apart. As the wedding day approached, the pressure from Liam's family intensified. His parents, who had always favored Ben, were relentless in their subtle yet persistent efforts to convince Liam to change his mind. At a family gathering a week before the wedding, his mother cornered him. "Liam, you know how much this means to Ben. Can't you talk to her again? It's just a proposal after all." Liam sighed, rubbing his temples. "Mom, we've already discussed this. It's not appropriate to propose at someone else's wedding. But think about how happy it would make him. Don't you want your brother to be happy?" "I do, but not at the expense of our wedding day," Liam insisted. His father chimed in. "Son, sometimes you need to compromise. Marriage is about making sacrifices, right? I watched the exchange from a distance, my heart aching for Liam. I knew he was struggling, and the pressure from his parents wasn't helping. I decided it was time to step in. I approached them, my voice calm but firm. We've already made a compromise by offering to help Ben plan a special proposal event. This is our wedding day, and we want it to be about us. His mother pursed her lips, clearly unhappy with my intervention, but she didn't argue further. I took Liam's hand and led him away, hoping to ease some of the tension. Determined to find a solution that would satisfy everyone, I reached out to Ben directly. We met at a cafe, and I could tell he was still upset about not being able to propose at the wedding. Ben, I understand that you want to make your proposal special, I began, trying to keep my tone empathetic. But our wedding day isn't the right time or place for it. We've already offered to help you plan a separate event. It will be more personal and meaningful for you and Melody. Ben sighed, running a hand through his hair. I get that, but I've been planning this for months. I wanted it to be a big surprise. And it can still be a surprise, I assured him. We can create a beautiful event where you can propose. Melody will appreciate the thought and effort you put into making it special for her. He looked at me, a mix of frustration and resignation in his eyes. Fine. We'll do it your way. Relieved, I thought the matter was finally resolved. I informed Liam of our conversation, and he seemed more at ease. We focused on the final preparations for the wedding, hoping that everything would go smoothly. The wedding day arrived, and everything went off without a hitch. The ceremony was beautiful, the reception lively and joyous. As the evening progressed, it was time for the speeches. Ben, as the best man, was up first. He started with a series of awkward jokes and puns that made the guests chuckle politely. I tried to focus on the positive, appreciating the effort he was putting into it. Part of his speech involved moving around the tables, engaging the guests directly. I should have known something was up, but in the spirit of the day, I chose to ignore the red flags. As Ben neared the end of his speech, he stopped in front of Melody. My heart sank as I saw him reach into his pocket. Time seemed to slow as he dropped to one knee and pulled out a ring. Melody, will you marry me? The garden fell silent, all eyes on Ben and Melody. I felt a surge of anger and betrayal. How could he do this? How could he ignore our agreement and hijack our special day? I couldn't stay there. I couldn't watch as the attention shifted from our celebration to Ben's proposal. Without a word, I turned and stormed out of the reception. My vision blurred with tears, and I felt a hand on my shoulder. It was my mother. Are you okay? She asked gently. I just need a moment, I choked out. Liam came running after me, his face a mix of panic and regret. I'm so sorry, he pleaded. They told me it'd be fine. They pressured me and I didn't want to upset you. I shook my head, too hurt to respond. My mother offered to drive me home and I accepted. As we left, I told Liam, don't call me, I'll call you. Update. A few days after the wedding, the events were still a whirlwind in my mind, each memory tainted with the sharp sting of betrayal. The day that should have been solely ours was overshadowed by an act that spoke of selfishness and disrespect. In an attempt to seek some closure or perhaps a flicker of understanding, I agreed to meet Ben alone. It was a chilly afternoon, the overcast sky mirroring the gloom that had settled over my spirit since the reception. We chose a quiet corner of the cafe we had frequented during happier times. The place was almost empty, a soft murmur of distant conversations barely brushing against the clink of coffee cups. Ben was already there, his figure slumped, his eyes staring into the void of his untouched coffee. As I approached, my heart pounded with a tumult of emotions, anger, sadness, but mostly a profound sense of betrayal. Ben, I started, my voice steadier than I felt. We need to talk about what happened at the wedding. He looked up, his expression weary. I know, and I'm sorry, he said, his voice low. The apology sounded sincere, but it did little to quell the storm inside me. Sorry? I echoed, my voice rising slightly despite my efforts to remain composed. Do you understand what you've done? You promised me, Ben. You looked me in the eyes and promised that you wouldn't propose at our wedding. Ben shifted uncomfortably in his seat. I know, I did, and I meant it at the time, but... His voice trailed off, unable to find an excuse that would suffice. But what? I pressed, needing to hear him say it, needing to understand how he could justify turning our wedding day into the backdrop for his own agenda. It just seemed like the perfect moment, he finally said, almost in a whisper. Everyone was there, everyone was happy, and I thought... You thought it would be okay to steal our moment? To disregard my feelings? To break your promise? Each question was sharper than the last, my frustration boiling over. Ben sighed deeply, running a hand through his hair. I didn't think it would hurt you this much. I thought you'd be happy for me, for us. The simplicity of his misunderstanding was almost laughable. A wedding day is about the couple getting married. It's our day. Our special moment. What made you think it was appropriate to shift the focus from us to you without even considering how it would affect me? Affect Liam? Ben looked down, the guilt finally settling in his features. I see that now. I was selfish. And I'm sorry. I just wanted everything to be perfect for Melody. And in doing so, You spoiled what was supposed to be a perfect day for us, I said, the hurt clear in my voice. Did you ever think about Liam in all this? Your brother, who struggles so much with conflict and pleasing everyone? He was silent, the impact of his actions dawning on him. I didn't. I thought he was okay with it, after what he said at dinner that night. Liam tries to make everyone happy, especially you. He often doesn't express his true feelings because he doesn't want to upset anyone. My voice softened as I thought of my husband, caught between his loyalty to his brother and his love for me. Ben nodded slowly, the regret visible. I've put him in a tough spot, haven't I? And you? I've put you through so much. Yes, you have. And I don't know how we're going to get past this. You broke my trust, Ben. And worse, you've made Liam part of this mess. The cafe was silent for a moment, the weight of the conversation dampening the air around us. Ben finally spoke, his voice resolute. I want to make it right. Tell me what I can do to fix this. I looked at him, searching for any sign of insincerity. It's not about quick fixes, Ben. It's about understanding the impact of your actions. You need to respect boundaries, respect what Liam and I have. You need to step back and think about others before yourself. Ben nodded, his eyes meeting mine. I'll do better, I promise. I hope you can, I said, standing up to leave. For the sake of our family, for the sake of your relationship with your brother, and for your future with Melody. You need to start thinking about the people you love as much as you think about what you want. As I walked away from the cafe, the cool air felt refreshing against the flush of emotion on my cheeks. The conversation had been difficult, necessary, but far from comforting. The road to forgiveness and trust was long, and I wasn't sure where to start. But I knew it would begin with a conversation with Liam, where we would have to navigate the damage done to our relationship together. How we would rebuild that trust was uncertain, but one thing was clear. It would take time, understanding, and a lot of healing. As I made my way home from the cafe, the cold silence from Liam's family became increasingly oppressive. It wasn't just the absence of any attempt to reach out that stung, it was their complete disregard for the gravity of their actions at our wedding. This silence was deafening, an implicit endorsement of Ben's behavior, and a clear dismissal of my feelings. In the days that followed, my phone remained disturbingly quiet. No calls, no messages, nothing from Liam's family. Even Liam's attempts to communicate were punctuated with hesitation, his messages a mix of apologies and attempts to explain his family's perspective. Each conversation left me more disillusioned about the possibility of reconciliation, not just with Ben, but with the entire family. On social media, the narrative was starkly different. The focus was all on Ben and Melody's engagement. Pictures of the proposal at our wedding flooded their feeds, accompanied by congratulatory messages and heart emojis. It was as if our wedding was merely a backdrop to their moment. Comments like, "What a perfect surprise," and "So romantic to do it at the wedding," filled their posts, each one a needle to my already wounded heart. What hurt the most was the lack of acknowledgement of the pain they had caused. It seemed as though Liam's family had created a narrative in which I was the antagonist for not sharing in their joy. Conversations I overheard or snippets from family chats that Liam showed me in an attempt to bridge understanding only revealed a deeper disconnect. They called me unreasonable, even selfish, for not appreciating the beautiful moment Ben had created. This perspective was not just hurtful, but alienating. It painted a clear picture of a family that valued spectacle over sensitivity, and public moments over personal integrity. Their inability to see the intrusion on our special day as problematic highlighted a fundamental difference in values that seemed irreconcilable. The realization that they saw me as the one at fault was baffling. How could they not see that their actions were a betrayal, not just of social norms but of personal trust? Their celebration of the proposal, without a single word of apology or acknowledgement of my feelings, was a clear sign of their priorities and loyalties. In response, I began to reflect on what this meant for my future in this family. How could I integrate into a family that so blatantly disregarded my feelings? How could Liam and I build a life together with the shadow of his family's insensitivity always lurking? These were questions that plagued me, each one chipping away at the foundation of the life I thought I was building with Liam. As the days turned into weeks, the lack of outreach from his family cemented my feelings of isolation. Their unrepentant attitude and selfish behavior were not just hurtful. They were indicative of a deeper pattern of disregard for anyone outside their immediate circle of approval. This realization brought me to a difficult decision. If there was to be any hope of salvaging our relationship, not just between Liam and me, but between me and his family, there needed to be a clear, honest conversation about boundaries, respect, and the importance of acknowledging and rectifying harm when it's done. Liam would need to understand and support this need for respect and acknowledgement if we were to move forward. I needed to communicate to Liam that this wasn't just about a ruined wedding day, but about what that day represented. A lack of respect for our union and for me as a person. Our next steps would need to include setting clear boundaries with his family, with consequences for crossing them. Only through these measures could we hope to rebuild trust and respect, essential foundations for any relationship, especially one marred by such a profound betrayal. As challenging as these conversations would be, they were necessary. I was prepared to stand firm, to demand the respect and consideration I deserved. If Liam and his family were unable to meet these basic requirements, I would have to reconsider what my future would look like, possibly even without them. The road ahead was uncertain, but I was resolved to ensure it was one where my dignity and self-respect were no longer up for debate. In the days that followed, I felt a whirlwind of emotions. Anger, betrayal, confusion. My side of the family was furious with Liam and his family. Meanwhile, Liam's family was busy congratulating Ben and Melody, their Facebook feeds filled with pictures of the proposal. It was like our wedding didn't matter to them at all. I was prepared to file for an annulment and move on. But then, I received an email from Liam. He poured his heart out, explaining how Ben and their parents had pressured him relentlessly until he finally caved. He admitted he was wrong for not coming to me and apologized profusely. "You were so stressed and I didn't want to worry you," he wrote. "Please give me another chance. Now I'm torn. I love Liam, and I know he's telling the truth. He's a horrible liar, and his sincerity shines through. But can I rebuild the trust that was broken? Can I persuade him that a family should never do that to one of their own?" As I sit here, staring at his email, I know I have a difficult decision to make. Is our marriage salvageable? Only time will tell. Drawing from the story, there are several significant experiences and lessons that offer valuable insights into navigating personal relationships and conflicts within a family dynamic. One of the central issues is the failure of communication between family members. Clear, honest, and open communication is crucial in any relationship, particularly in managing expectations and resolving conflicts. The bride's attempt to communicate her concerns about the proposal and set boundaries was a step in the right direction, though it was ultimately disregarded. The story also highlights the importance of setting and enforcing boundaries within familial and marital relationships. Boundaries help protect personal integrity and ensure that relationships are mutually respectful. When boundaries are crossed, as they were in this story, it can lead to significant emotional distress and conflict. This underscores the complexity of family dynamics, especially when one family member's needs or behaviors overshadow others. Liam's difficulty in balancing his loyalty to his family and his new wife underscores the challenges that can arise in relationships where familial interference is common. The impact of external approval and pressure, as seen through Liam's family's need for external validation on social media, significantly impacted the couple's relationship. This shows how external pressures and the pursuit of approval can distort personal priorities and relationships. Despite the shock and betrayal, the bride's emotional journey from contemplation and decision-making reflects resilience. Facing betrayal, especially from loved ones, is profoundly painful, yet her response demonstrates strength in advocating for her own needs and emotional well-being. While the bride felt wronged, the story also points to the importance of understanding other perspectives. Although not excusable, Ben's actions stemmed from his personal insecurities and desire for a memorable engagement. Understanding the underlying motivations does not justify the actions, but can aid in resolving conflicts and healing. Ultimately, the bride's realization that she must demand respect and consider her future happiness speaks to the importance of maintaining personal integrity and self-respect in relationships.